Sprint car racing originated in the early 20th century in the United States, evolving from the grassroots of dirt track racing. The sport developed as a cheaper and more accessible alternative to professional auto racing, with a focus on speed, skill, and excitement on short oval tracks, but would be proven to be much more dangerous. Nevertheless, the true beginnings of sprint car racing dated back to the early 1900s, particularly from the board track racing era in the 1910s to the 1930s. These board tracks were high-speed oval death traps made of wooden planks, popular before dedicated paved racetracks were built. Eventually, county fairs held races at fairgrounds using modified Model T Fords and homemade speedsters. Farmers, mechanics, and small-town racers would modify lightweight cars for better speed and handling. This was the true legends of the sport, no full containment seat. Heck, these maniacs didn't even have roll cages. After too many drivers and spectators died, sanctioning bodies were introduced. In the 1920s, the American Automobile Association became the first organization to oversee dirt track racing, laying the foundation for future sprint car regulations. The term sprint car came into use as the sport became more structured. These cars were stripped down, high-powered, short wheelbase race cars designed for quick acceleration and tight cornering on dirt ovals. States like Indiana, Pennsylvania, Iowa, and California became hotbeds for sprint car racing. Legendary tracks like Knoxville Raceway in Iowa, Williams Grove Speedway in Pennsylvania emerged during this period. After World War II, there was a surge in racing as soldiers returned home and sought thrilling pastimes. With the end of the Great Depression, engine technology improved and V8-powered sprint cars became the standard. In 1956, the United States Auto Club was founded by Tony Holman with an effort to regulate sprint car and midget racing. For the next years, traditional sprint cars, midgets, and Silver Crown cars all thrived and built the foundation that all racers stand on today. Then one day, sometime around 1970, an unknown legend decided to install a contraption on top of the race car to provide better downforce. Later that same year, in 1970, the All-Star Circle of Champions was founded by Bud Miller. This year would mark the birth and early years of winged sprint car racing. Years later, in 1978, a breakaway group called the World of Outlaws was formed by a legend named Ted Johnson, eventually becoming the premier sprint car series in North America for the next 50 years. Non-winged sprint cars remain popular for their raw driving challenge and bravery. Unfortunately, these cars would become notorious for their hard wrecks. At some point over the years, NASCAR owners added contractual requirements, preventing drivers from being able to compete in a wingless sprint car due to the risks. Sprint cars would evolve into lightweight 1,400 pounds, 900-plus horsepower fire-breathing machines with massive rear tires and the finest shocks. Throughout the years, many incredibly talented race car drivers have emerged, producing some of the greatest racing we've ever seen. Rivalries between states, countries, and different touring groups would blossom, with the most notable rivalry in sprint car racing that still goes strong to this day is the rivalry between the World of Outlaws and the state of Pennsylvania. Over the years, the World of Outlaws would become the top-tier touring group, holding the highest-paying races with the busiest schedule, and almost all the best racers would compete against one another, almost all of them. Back in Pennsylvania, they may not have had the money like the Outlaws, they may not have traveled around the country like the Outlaws, but they did have comparable schedules with a nice variety of racetracks for their locals to perfect their skills. These locals would have fierce weekly races with some of the best crowds, which eventually grew to be known as the one and only Pennsylvania Posse. The World of Outlaws would travel around the U.S. winning all the races against all the locals. But when they show up to Pennsylvania, they know they're in for a battle. The war still wages on today, and with more touring groups emerging, the Posse will have more chances to defend their turf. PA would have the toughest weekly competition, but places like California and Indy would arguably produce the most amount of talent. Other hotbeds in racing have begun to form in Ohio, Oklahoma, Arizona, Florida, Washington, and Texas. On an international level, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand all showcase some form of sprint car racing, and local racing in the USA is thriving countrywide. Head on down to your local track and take a gander. Never know, you might have a little need for speed yourself. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that little tidbit on sprint cars. Until next time, my friends, slide or die, and Godspeed.